time for January 2024, which is a challenge to make as many pieces of music during the month of January as you can. Audra's ready. Are you? These could be full songs, little beats, loops, ideas, song starters, or even just a little noodling on your favorite instrument. The point is to exercise the music-making muscle as often as possible. This year, I'm supplying members of the Music Production Club with tools, techniques, and prompts to help build inspiration each day during the month of January. Every day, you'll get a sample, a loop, an instrument, or an effect to experiment with. There'll be a prompt or activity to help you get started. And I've also created a calendar that you can use as a checklist so that you can form streaks to help build inspiration and motivation to keep going. You can share your jams in our Discord so you can hear what other people are doing and receive feedback and encouragement from other members. Every song on my last two albums, Passings and Rectangles, started as January jams. It's a great way to build discipline and motivation to create some music. To join in with the Music Production Club and all these fun activities, head over to brianfunk.com/MPC. See you there. Hello and welcome to the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk. This is the show about all things making music. Today's show, I am featuring Raul Sotomayor. And Raul makes music as Tonga Conga. I got it okay, right?
Yeah.
Thanks. So you're making music as Tonga Conga, which you described as Afro-Caribbean electronic music, which is a cool combination of genres. You've got Kaya Records, a studio you're building. It's awesome to have you here. We met through we should shout out our mutual friend, Lyndon Williams, aka Divorce Court, who put us together. Lyndon was on the podcast a little while ago, and he's been a friend through virtual friend, I guess. We haven't actually met in real life, but it's great to talk to him. And he spoke so highly of you. I got into your stuff, and it's really great that we're getting a chance to talk now.
We can make the whole podcast just about Lyndon. Basically.
Yeah, we probably could.
Yeah,
I think we both have enough nice things to say about him.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's great to have you, man. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I've been listening to your music and really like it a lot. I mean, I don't understand a lot of it because it's in Spanish. So a lot of it goes over my head, but some of my like high school education Spanish classes, I pick out certain phrases and stuff. But I was really drawn to a lot of the rhythms you have in there. There's so much great movement, and a lot of times it's not because there's a ton going on either. You're really effective with the elements you put into your music. I've really appreciated that a lot about your work. And I think you're a percussionist. Is that your original way you started into music?
Yeah, it's the instrument that I'm less worst at. Yeah, I started as a drummer, and then it turned into DJing. Like DJing is like my main thing. Like that's what I'm really good at, because I've been DJing just for so long that it's like really easy to me. And I began to understand music by the process of understanding DJing and getting to read people and what makes people dance, and how you could make music just with two turntables, like
right.
Not knowing anything about music, just how can we make a beat out of sampling something, or just trying to make similar songs to the ones that you loved because you're gonna play them in a DJ set or something. So it's like doing everything backwards, because instead of just going to school and learning music theory, it was like the opposite. Like, let's try to figure out how we can make music if we don't know how to make music. And that's how we're here.
That's, I never thought about DJing in that way, but I guess you get to really pay attention to how the music is making people feel first. Whereas, like you said, like if most people learning music will learn some theory, learn some technique on the instrument, and it's usually a very long time before you ever get in front of an audience to watch them react to what you do. But that's got to be really helpful, I guess, for a lot of the production work you're doing, and as far as like recording other people and collaborating to have that first, because that really is the first and most important thing, I think, about music when we make it, right? Is how it makes us feel.
Yeah, I think it's so crazy because when you talk to kids that are just start in the production thing, it's very technical. Like they want
Hmm.
to know the secret sauce, like how
Right.
to make that kick sound huge, or side compression, or just things that really doesn't matter that much. Like people that listen to music, they don't even know what a compressor is, but they
Right.
understand the storytelling part of music, which is basically the most important thing. Like what it doesn't even matter if it's like an instrumental song, it's gonna tell a story.
Hmm.
Like if you're making lo-fi beats, it's gonna tell a relaxing story or a poetry story about sunrise or whatever.
Hmm.
It's like so important, like how you're gonna talk about something that has meaning to you first, so it has meaning to some people. And in my world, it has always been like making people dance, like how I can make this beat that is gonna make people dance and have groove, and then
Hmm.
how we can tell a story. Like the reason why all the songs are in Spanish mainly is because as a Latin American producer, it was like really important for me to tell that story of where I come from, and just making sense out of it, of the Latin American flag. So
Hmm.
it's kind of important for me to take that into music. Like you can listen to it and you will know sort of where it is coming from. So that's also part of the storytelling and the concept of music. It's not just making sick beats, it has
Yeah.
there's there's a lot of things happening in the other side for music to be coherent and for people to understanding and to start loving it as much as you love it when you made it.
Yeah, right. Because a good piece of music that tells a story can live on its own, but a sick beat on its own,
Exactly.
it's like cool. Okay, we heard it loop around maybe two or three times, and now you're kind of expecting something else to come out of it, something to develop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so crazy. And the more I start to understand music, because I think that you will never end learning about music, the more I
Mm,
see that how the storytelling is like the most important part. Just to have something to say. Doesn't even
yeah.
matter how good you are in an instrument, or you know, you you need to also have something to say. Like right now I'm really into this Andre 3000 flute record,
Me too. I
and
love it.
I
Yeah.
just I just saw, I think everyone saw the GQ interview, and it's so awesome to listen him talking about music and seeing so much similarities in what he said. And the
Hmm.
thing that touched me more was the part where he says like, I tried to make a rap album and it didn't came out of me, like I had nothing to say there, but I had
Yeah.
some other things to say in music, like how he sees life now, and how he sees playing flute and just going to the street and play, and how this album was made just by improvising, and how he's just making the music that he wants to make, and how important is that in life. It's not just trying to make music that will get thousands of streams in Spotify. It's also very important to make music that you love and that people can relate to.
Yeah, I think that's the title of one of the tracks, like that last 45
Yeah.
seconds of you talking. That's he's got
It's-
he it's all instrumental. I didn't see the GQ interview, so I got to check that out. But he puts a lot of the story in the title. Some of those titles are
yeah,
like
yeah,
almost paragraphs. And I I was really curious to hear it too, because I think I saw like some headline on social media, something like that, where people were shocked and people can't believe it. I was like, well, cool. It's fun to see somebody really taking a risk like that, especially because I think it's been quite a while since he's released music too.
yeah,
And he really does tell stories in the music, and it's I've found it really enjoyable when I'm like out walking around, walking the dog, or going for a run, it takes you somewhere. It's and the titles are almost a funny. I don't know if
Yeah.
he did it with humor. I must have. I think had some humor in there just to kind of. I'm going to explain it in the title, and one of those is
Yeah.
like I tried to make a rap song, but it's like an apology for not making rap music.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. No, and it's the music is very good because kind of the same happened to me. Like I saw that there was a new Andre 3000 album, and it was like I do like Outkast, and but
yeah,
it's not like I want to run and listen to what he did. Then I listened that it was a flute album, and it was like, really, like why? But then you listen to the music, and it's really good.
Mm.
Like it's a very well done album.
You can tell why when you listen to it. You
Yeah.
get it, I think, pretty quickly. You go, oh, like you can hear the excitement and fun that's being had with it. And it's also just really cool, even like production wise. I think it's a lot of like electronic flute in there and a
Yeah.
mixture.
And a lot of
And
synths and
yeah,
soundscapes, and it's because in the interview he says that he improvised everything,
hmm.
but there's a lot of production and composition, and there's a lot of work going on the album.
Yeah,
It's I know that he stood in front of the mic and he improvised stuff, but there are really powerful hooks, and there are,
right.
there's a lot of work.
Yeah, there's direction for sure.
Yeah,
I could
yeah,
imagine maybe that's how the songs were born, some improvisation, but then
yeah,
probably pulling them together a little because it's such a cool thing to happen. I love that. Because it gives everyone permission to just do what you want, do what you
yeah,
feel, follow your heart, and don't worry about. We live in like a world nowadays, I guess, where the audience is so vast and everyone's attention is so divided into a million directions that if you kind of just go with something you really feel, there's got to be somebody else out there that's gonna
yeah,
feel
for
that too.
sure, for sure. That's I feel sometimes as a producer or as a beat maker or as a musician, like you feel kind of lost because you don't know where to go.
Mm.
And most of the time is because you have to struggle with this idea of failure. Like what happens if I put this out and no one likes it or no one listens to it, or and that album puts that in perspective very good, because even
Mm.
him, even Andrew 3000 thinks that this was gonna fail like epically, and it's it's like the most important album of the year. It's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, it is really funny, and what a risk. And yeah, it. I mean, I could tell you what happens when no one listens to your music firsthand. Nothing happens.
Exactly,
Like
exactly, exactly.
you still feel accomplished. To me, it's like you did the impossible every time. It's magic. You made something out of thin air. It wasn't there. It didn't exist, and I really try to remember that when I go through it, that it's pretty much magic. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
there's like
yeah,
technical things you do, but it's so incredible when it happens that it almost doesn't even matter how good it is. Even just that from the discipline side of things, that you followed through on something. It's so rare that we do that. People do that, that we have an idea and we see it through. If you get there, like, congratulations, I think. And if it's well received, that's amazing, but that's something you can't really control. And so you might as well just do what you feel.
exactly. You just gotta keep making it, because
Yeah.
it happens to me a lot that I work with artists, like me producing their albums, and when it's their first album, that's always like a really important topic, because sometimes it happens that they have like a song where they recorded, like a guitar part, and they are really reluctant to deleting that part or to changing it,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
it's like you kind of need to understand that if you're gonna make a career out of this, you're gonna make 5,000 songs, So
Hmm.
you also need to be able to let it go. Like, tomorrow I'll do another song, and tomorrow I'll do another, and eventually there's gonna be one that it's good, because you're gonna improve and get better, and you have to be able to enjoy the process, because that's ultimately the fun part. Like,
Hmm.
you're like when you get to make an album at a studio and just be there for a week and working with another musicians and record, and that's really the fun part of this. That's the thing that you're gonna remember years later, how you made those songs and how you interacted with other people and how fun it was to listen to the final tracks.
Right.
So you need to be able to enjoy the process. Doesn't matter if these songs are gonna get listened to or be a success or not, or you need to be able to enjoy the process.
It's so true, because it comes out in the final product anyway. You can't really control that as much, how it's received, but you can control how you enjoy the work. It's such a metaphor for pretty much everything else, isn't it? Like
Yeah, yeah.
life, like
Yeah,
even when you get to the end of the process of making an album, it's exciting and it's great, but then that's it. So then it's the next one and the next one, and you have to be into that. And if you are stressing out about like those little parts, like I can't get rid of that part, you'll take all the fun out of the fun part.
exactly, exactly.
And good luck with the rest of the stuff that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so unpredictable and scary.
Yeah, totally.
You've been doing a lot of that recently, I believe, right? This is kind of a big focus of yours. You worked with a lot of people on your record, Heavy, Jevi,
Yeah.
which thanks for cluing me on like a new slang term too. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, but that's been kind of something you've been doing. I'm sure it teaches you a lot about other ways of working as well as how you work and things like that, I imagine.
Yeah, I think the pandemic was kind of like a transforming year for me,
Yeah.
and I think for everyone in the world.
Hmm.
But for me especially, it meant like a really huge change in what I was doing, because before the pandemic I was just focusing like on my own projects. And then the pandemic was really hard on me because I put out an album February 2020. So
Nice.
that's like basically the
Worst
worst
timing ever.
possible day, like worst timing ever. And
Yeah.
it's an album that I love, but it really didn't do well because it was a very difficult time for everyone. Like, no one
There's a
was paying
lot in the
attention
news.
to
Yeah.
music. So after that, it was like really hard for me to go and make music again. Like, you will see on Instagram like people, like if they were on vacations, like, yeah, lockdown, like I'm gonna go and make beats, like finally I have time to make music. And for me it was like, man, that's what I do every day. Like, today I really don't
Mhm.
want to go and do it again if I don't even know what's gonna happen tomorrow.
Right.
Like, it was kind of hard. And then suddenly people start reaching out to me to help them produce their music, and that kind of took a lot of pressure from me, because it was like, okay, now I just have to make the music. I don't have to put it out. that's that's gonna be your problem. So it kind of took like a lot of pressure from me, because it was like, okay, I just have to do the music, and that's awesome. And I started to produce albums from another artist, and it ended up with this studio, because before this my studio was in my apartment, like just like the living room, like the whole living room was the studio. And it was a nice spot, and I loved it, and I worked there like for 8 years. but having a studio makes things easier, because sometimes when you're producing other artists, like if you're making music for a rapper, there will be like 10 people in your house. So it was kind of like weird to have them in my house. And now it is a studio. So and everything is more controlled, because before I was only able to do like pre-productions, because it will be like, okay, we can record synths and we might be able to record vocals, but maybe not final takes. But if I wanted to record drums or percussions, I would have to set them up like literally on my living room. It was kind of weird. Like acoustics were not the right thing for those recordings. And now here I can just do whatever. Like I have a room where I can record drums or final vocal takes. And it also helps with the process, because before that it was like, okay, we have to make a pre-production and then we're gonna need to go to a studio and rent a studio and have a week where we will re-record everything that needs to be re-recorded. And now that I have a studio, like decisions can be final. Like you can go and play drums, and that's basically what's gonna end up in the record, because everything is under control and we already set up the mics like we wanted and we have the correct performance. And so it's making the process like something where we can go faster, and also where we can experiment more, because it's like a space really suitable for composition. Because sometimes when you go to a big studio, like they will have the giant SSL console, but
Yeah.
but nothing works. Like, yeah, there's all these synths, but they don't work, and we don't know how to connect them, or so
Right.
here everything is just like everything is already working. So if you kind of feel like sitting on the roads and just playing something, it's already sounding like I just need to hit record and we will start working. And that's also something that is improving the creative process and just getting into making music faster. And yeah, that's where I am at this point.
Right. Yeah, you have things, you don't get caught up in that. The inspiration is so fickle. It slips away so fast. And sometimes even just connecting things and moving some seats around, and
Yeah,
then you almost lose it, or you don't feel like it anymore. Or if you have
yeah,
to figure out what's not connected right, you can lose it all like that. You have to set up things to protect it. Your
yeah,
studio is really beautiful from the pictures you sent. I love that there's a lot of space. There's not a lot of clutter anywhere. It seems very neat. I love that. You've got like drawers kind of for synthesizers and drum machines. That looks like it was invented. Was that like a custom piece of furniture just for that? Because
yeah,
that's like, where do you find that thing? Like, I don't
yeah.
see that at IKEA or anything.
Well, the thing is that I'm an industrial designer. I went to school for that.
Oh,
That's what I
cool.
actually did studied. So I cannot kind of design everything, and then an architect helped me just to build everything.
Wow. That's
So yeah,
perfect.
everything is like really. I think I thought a lot how that was gonna work. So before
Yeah.
making it, and like the panels, like everything is movable, like everything is on wheels.
Hmm.
So if we are doing like a live session, I can just move things around and just fit them to the perfect position. And since this is an apartment that I'm renting, if I need to move out, like I can just take everything from the
Mm,
walls, instead of having everything like just perfectly acoustically made. So yeah, that's kind
nice.
of I can
Yeah,
I
this
can give you guys like a quick turnaround of the
yeah. Those sound absorption panels are great. Beautiful. All right, I like
That's
the music too.
that's basically that was the quick tour.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of nice natural light in there too, which I'm sure just adds to the ambiance. Yeah, I can see that you have a sense of design. This is something I don't have. So when I see it, I'm like, wow, how did they figure that out? There's no continuity in anything I do.
Well, there's like studios are dark places because like no windows because that's not gonna help for acoustics.
Yeah,
But as you said before, sometimes it doesn't help like for inspiration or things. Sometimes it helps more to just be in a place where you actually feel good about making
right.
music. So that was also
Yeah,
like something really important to just have like this cozy place where you really want to be all day just working, because
right.
that's also like the funny part of this, that we're actually working and
Yeah.
it doesn't seems like but yeah.
Well, that's something that you don't realize, I guess, getting into it, that it is work. Um, you're in a place for a long time and you're focused on something. It's, probably the fun work you want to be doing. It's not, data entry or things like that, but it is a type of work. So it's nice to be comfortable. And I agree with you. I'd rather have less than ideal acoustics and get some natural light in there. I'm in the basement of my house, and it's dedicated to studio work and washing and drying machine. Those are the two jobs of this area. I have those. They're hidden behind that curtain behind me, so don't tell anyone. But I do have a door over here that I made sure had like a window in it. It wasn't just it used to be a solid door. Because a lot of times it's a nice day out, and I hate being cooped up in the basement when it's nice out. So to get the light in there, it really helps a lot. It just makes it feel more cozy, and I think it's so much. It's a fair trade in my mind. I'll deal with some poor acoustics for the comfort, to be in a
Yeah,
place where I want to be, that I can feel comfortable to actually write music and play, and not feel like, okay, I got to do this so I can get out of here.
yeah, it's as we were saying, like sometimes you get lost into the technical aspect of things, and
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes it doesn't matter that much. Like there's this other album that I love, well, this band Crankbin. We're going into pronunciation, but this instrumental band, and they are from Texas, and they recorded the album just like in a barn.
Hmm.
I don't know if you saw that, but it's just a barn. Like the picture from the drums, you could see cows, and and
Nice.
they just set up like a studio there because that's where they wanted to record it. And
Yeah,
it's no one is actually, like, music is not gonna change just because it was recorded in a barn. So
right. Well, I believe Neil Young did Harvest in a barn, if
yeah,
I'm not mistaken. I think I saw some videos of that.
or the
That's
Tame
one of my
Impala
favorite
albums.
albums. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, like where he's recording is gorgeous. They're
yeah, it's
like
just like
overlooking the water.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, oh yeah. There's a really great video of them playing live up there. And I don't remember who made it, what it's for, but it starts out like daytime and then it gets dark by the end, and it just looks like such a great place to be. It's so
yeah,
cozy. It's just a house, I guess, but
yeah. I think it was a house that they rented like for a month, and
mm,
they recorded there, and the session was like for like an anniversary of the release of the album. So they just played
okay.
the whole album
Yeah,
just like
cool.
they made it, like same
Right.
instruments, same miking,
Hmm.
because
I love the way those records sound. And that's one of the first things I noticed about Tame Impala records. It's just right away like the sonics of it is so cool, so interesting and unique. So
Yeah, I'm
I-
I, I'm crazy about the drums, so
yeah, me too.
I'm
Dry and
always geeking just how were those drums recorded, and
hmm
like his process is really interesting. Like really just few mics,
yeah,
drums in his bedroom, like nothing fancy. Just go and record it with whatever you have.
right. They have spirit, those
Yeah,
recordings.
yeah, yeah.
This is something we were kind of talking a little bit about before we pressed record, and I was kind of like, we better start recording because you were mentioning your studio, Kaya Studio. Is it Kaya Studio and Kaya Records, right? They both
Yeah.
have the same name.
Well, yeah, it's like just like Kaya, and then it's the records. I
Okay,
prefer
gotcha.
to yeah.
So
So
that's the
Kaya,
name of your dog, right?
yeah,
And
and
my
also
dog
a
is
rumor.
right behind me, sleeping behind me here, and we were talking a little bit about how sometimes they get into the albums making noise and stuff, and I've always allowed that because I've wanted to re-record stuff a few times. There's one recording in particular I was mentioned in I do a sampling class with Berkeley. I always tell them about it, where I was recording a quiet classical guitar, and I had a cat at the time, and he, like all cats, gets interested in you when you get busy doing something else.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to do this real quiet part, and he walks between my legs, and his little chain on his collar starts jingling, totally noticeable in the recording. And I almost recorded over it made another take, but I decided to leave it. And now that's such a little special touch for me on that song to just hear that. I remember where I was, what was happening, exactly how I was sitting in the room, even. And I can hear my cat again, and he's in there. And, he's since, passed away. And I still have that connection, still can kind of like call him up a little bit. And there he is participating. And I think that kind of stuff I don't know that anyone else would know that, but I think it does bring something nice to the recording, life, and some kind of vitality, some kind of spirit or something that gets put into your music when you let that stuff in. Sometimes you might not be able to do that all the time when you're working with other people and they're hiring you to do it. They want to get those sounds out of there and keep it clean, but uh, I think it's something worth considering, not to just scrub away all of the life out of our music like we so easily can now.
Yeah, like it's. I think it might be the reason why we abuse the sampling part of music, because
Uh-huh.
everyone just wanted, like to be perfect. Like you want to have the best quality in your music all of the time, and sometimes we confuse quality with the spirit. Like
Mm,
there's like a middle point where you can
mm,
have the perfect amount of quality in a recording and not taking the soul out of it. No, it doesn't matter if you made the song in your bed, you know, or in your bedroom. It you don't have to be in a really expensive studio full of gear in order for you to make good music. Like that's like when you start in music, there's always that that feeling in your mind that you need to have the best quality and be in the best studio and with the best producer. And that's not gonna make your music good at all. Like
yeah,
that has to come from you, and it's gonna come from different places.
I agree. When I first got some decent recording equipment, moving up from like a 4-track cassette recorder, it was so exciting. Like, wow, it sounds so much better. And I don't even know what I'm doing. So then I got into mic placement and EQ compressor. And so I got really started getting into that stuff, and it got too technical. And I wasn't making as much music. I was just setting up microphones all the time. And finally, it was when I said, I'm not even going to worry about it, because it's going to be so much better than what I had before anyway, even if I screw everything up along the way. It's going to sound way better than anything I could ever do before. And letting that go allowed me to just finish stuff and learn along the way. Like, hey, you know what? That wasn't the great mic placement, but I can make up for it maybe in how I record this part. I can change something here, or just next time I won't do it that way. But at least
Yeah,
I'm going through it and hearing how it works into the big picture and finishing stuff so that you can have something to work on the next time. And it was a big moment for me. I'm really vividly remembering just deciding to, like, all right, let's just stop worrying about all this stuff for a little while. Just see if we can make something.
yeah. I think something that happens a lot of the times is like you work like on a vocal part and you start processing it, and it suddenly it has like a bunch of effects and it sounds awesome. And there's a huge part of like replacing recordings in the process of producing an album, and sometimes you try to recreate it and it doesn't sound like the first take, like
Yeah.
sometimes it's, I don't know what that crappy vocal that we recorded in the phone has, but that one's the
Yeah.
one that's working. Like, why do we want to change it just because we're gonna do it with a more expensive mic? Like, let's just
Hmm.
keep it. And you know some sometimes it's like that.
Yeah. I guess you have like that spirit. You're just starting, you're excited. All that stuff like comes through your voice and through your fingers and your hands when you're playing instruments. Um, to speak of Neil Young again, I heard him talk about when he records with his band, Crazy Horse, he doesn't really let them learn the song completely before they start recording. They don't perfect it anyway. He gets it to a point where it sounds good and then they record. And it's not going to come out perfect, but it's going to come out with some energy and some spirit, and where in a way that it's being thoughtfully delivered instead of trying to be precise.
Yeah,
Sometimes the precision costs you the emotion.
yeah. It's yeah, it's so crazy. Like there's this other part that happens a lot that I call it the motitis. I don't know if it
Demo,
translates to,
demoitis,
yeah.
demoitis. I've heard that. Yeah.
That just, sometimes the artist just listen to the demo like so many times that he loves it how it is.
Yeah.
And I'm, as a producer, I'm just trying to delete everything, and it's like, you know if maybe it's good just as it is, or or maybe not, but that's just part of the decision of just trying to move forward with what you're doing. And I see it,
Yeah.
how you put it on, how not letting the artist to have the full song before recording it because something magic is gonna happen. Like,
Mm,
it also happens like the other way around. Like sometimes they gave a first take and then they are trying to just improve, and sometimes it doesn't flows like that. Like the
hmm.
first take was the good one, or sometimes it does. Like I've seen it, like that's sometimes you learn the song and then you will be able to give a better performance. Because maybe
Right.
when you just wrote it, you sing it, and it wasn't the best performance. Sometimes there's room for improvement, and
Mm,
sometimes there's not. But there's also where the work of the producer comes into place. Like there has to be someone that has the assertiveness to say,
yeah.
okay, this is what we're gonna do. Like, so yeah,
Yeah. I was thinking that's probably where your job gets tricky because there is something you can, when you know a song, then there's some fun you can have with it. You can play around. But when you don't know a song, you're kind of making decisions emotionally based on how it's making you feel in the moment. And it's, as the performer, it can be really tough to be able to tell which way is right, which is working. Do you have any, because like so much of being a producer with other people is not even about music, it's more psychological stuff, right? like
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 Rick
making
Rubin will say, yeah.
yeah. Do you have any kind of approaches you take with people, any ways you like to communicate with them, maybe, that's because you don't want to upset them, insult them, or probably the worst thing you can do is make them feel like inadequate, like, no, it's not good. You like, you don't want them to feel like they can't do it.
Yeah, I it's the most difficult part of the process, I think. But I have kind of a couple of tricks, let's say. Like, for example, I try to let them, if you're composing a song, like I'll try just to let them play around with the instruments. Like sometimes they
Mm.
expect the producer to just grab the guitar and start making the song. And it's like, it's not my song. It's your song. So
Yeah.
just go and play it. And it will be like, no, but I'm not a pianist. I don't know. Like, it's like nothing's judged here. Like, you
Mm.
play it and then we'll see if it works, or like. So that's kind of the approach that I try to have. Also, to always listen to their ideas. Sometimes the artists are not able to see how the product is going to be at the end. So sometimes that makes them delete ideas very fast. Like they will say like, "I, what if we record a guitar?" And then they will be like, "No, no, no, it's not going to work." And it's like, "How do you know that it's not going to work?" Like,
Mm.
it's just give it a try. Like, record it first and let's see what happens. Like, but as a producer, you always need to listen to them first, like, and not go and say like, no, 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 we're not gonna record a guitar because like, if you have an
Yeah.
idea, let's try it, and then let's see if it works. Sometimes you're not working just with an artist; it's a band, so it's three people giving ideas, and there's
Mm.
always a conflict of ideas. So you need to be able to listen to everyone and just everyone give their positive or negative feedback and try to get to a middle point. There's
Right.
also these things I didn't learn them like on my own. Like I learned this by working with other producers and just seeing them work and interact with people and see
Mm.
why that works. Like I think that the best producers that I work with are the ones that really listen to you, that they are paying attention to what you do and what you want to get out of music, because I see the producer work as that. Like, my work is to make the artist shine. It's to take the best out of them and put it into music. So that's hard to see. And for example,
Mm-hmm.
I I've worked with producers that are obviously older than me and that have been working in music for a lot of years. Sometimes for them it's hard to understand like the technological DJ approach to music. Like they see
Yeah.
Ableton Push and they won't understand what that's doing. They
Right.
they will see me like the crazy guy pushing buttons.
Uh-huh.
But the great producers will see that they don't understand as something that they want to learn too, because it's a process where we're just feedbacking ideas. So as a producer, you need to also be able to learn from the artist stuff. It's not like you are the only one that knows how to make the song. Right? So
Right.
it's a process.
That's something that happens to me every time I'm collaborating. I will hear ideas sometimes and be positive it's not going to work.
Yeah.
you know, like, no, that's not a good idea. No, 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 no. you know, I usually do go with it. I think I'm pretty good about that. pretty open-minded, but I will know, like, in my heart, like, all right, we're just gonna do this because it's I'm working with other people. We got to be fair, right? So let's give everything a shot. And there's always a number of times in those situations where I was so wrong. Like, that actually sounds pretty good. It works great. And that kind of humbling experience of finding out, like, yeah, no, you had it wrong. Like, as much as you believe that wasn't going to work, listen how good that sounds. And it's a great thing to have happen to you because it only expands your possibilities. It makes you see new ways to do things. There's definitely no reason to get too attached to any idea you have, or any idea against someone else's idea. Any opinion against any other idea, because you really don't know until it happens. Is that's the conclusion I've come to. Is it's everything is kind of a little bit of guesswork, and we might know things that kind of work well in certain situations, but nothing works every time, and nothing never works either. There's always a surprise along the way.
Yeah, it's I don't know if I think it's also part of like modern production because maybe
Mm.
in the 70s you wouldn't try an idea because it was
Time,
expensive.
money.
Like
Yeah.
you couldn't say like, okay, let's record a different guitar part. It was gonna take like a huge part of the tape, so it's gonna cost money and time, and we don't have time, you know. But in today's production work, it's just gonna be an Ableton track that you can just mute or delete, like
Right.
so. Just go for the idea and record it, and
Mm.
it. I remember I remember a lot having teachers when I was in the design school telling me just when I entered to school that it doesn't matter that you had like an idea for something, that you need to put it on paper, like you need to make a drawing
Mm.
of the idea, like, yeah, let's
Mm.
make this chair to only have three legs and to be round, and in your mind it sounds awesome, but once you draw it, it's like, no, this
Right.
is not gonna work. But you
Yeah.
need to see it, and
Yeah.
in the production world it's kind of the same thing. Like,
Mm.
okay, let's record the idea first, and then we see if we delete it or not, or maybe that idea brings you to this different idea that's awesome. So you have to be able to catch those moments.
Right. That's a funny way to think about it too. I started thinking about like those MC Escher drawings of
Yeah.
like the impossible staircases and stuff. Because
Yeah.
sometimes in your head you have this idea, yeah, it's gonna be really cool, and then you try to put it down, and you realize you have all these contradicting things trying to happen at the same time. You can't have physics of it won't work. The way you're thinking is just impossible. It's gonna too many things in the low end or something like that, or there's just no way to do it. But you do need to see it sometimes. I bet. Do you find that that sort of design background has helped you musically,
Yeah,
putting things together?
I think with the creative process, because designing is just like music, is just kind of solving a problem. Like,
Hmm.
where are you gonna sit, or how can you make something to sit? So you need to solve that problem going from nothing to something. And
Right.
music is just the same. Like, I don't have nothing, and then at the end you have a song, and there's a process that can help you get there, a creative process. And I'll say that's what I'm actually prepared to to do, because that's
Hmm.
what I went to school for. And I try to apply that idea all of the time in how I make music, because I think when you are starting in music, something that happens a lot is repetition. like once you figure out how to make a song, then all of your songs start sounding kind of the same because your process is kind of the same. Like I always start with a drum beat and then I'll go to chords and then bass, and these are kind of my sounds. And then you make 10 beats in a week and they are all basically sounding the same. And sometimes it's because your process is not changing. So I try to change how I approach music every time. Like today, instead
Mm.
of doing it the way I do it, I'll try to start with a sample. I will just listen to a vinyl and let's see if I can sample something. Or today I listen to this song and I'm gonna try to just copy it, but not copy the song. Maybe just copy the structure, because I love
Hmm.
how the song starts and how it has like this bridge in the middle. So I'll try to make a song that has this same structure. Or sometimes it's like I'm just gonna try and make this song on the synth because I haven't used it in a while or something, and let's just see if there's something that inspires me here. And just going to different places will always brings you to different results. Like let's start
Mm.
today with writing the lyrics, and then we'll see how we make music to that. So the creative process is really helpful in developing music and developing a sound and ultimately making an album, which is something that doesn't happen much in these times because it's just making singles. But when you're an artist, or you're trying to be an artist, making a bunch of songs that make sense together, it's what ultimately end up making a project.
Hmm.
Like if it's a band, or even if it's like your DJ project, just being really clear with the type of music that you make. That's gonna happen by making an album, because just a compilation of songs that can go together.
Yeah. So you're starting a lot of times with some kind of vision, some kind of maybe even challenge. It sounds like I'm going to try something a little different. I
Yeah,
guess.
because
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, the blank page. It's trying to
Yeah.
beat the blank page is the hardest part.
When you're designing something, so I'm trying to make a comparison here now, because sometimes I like to come down. What am I going to do today? I don't know. Let's see where it takes me. Let's just pull something random out here and here. And a lot of times I make nothing, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now I'm trying to compare that to a design thing. Like if I'm going to build something today. All right, let me just grab this piece of wood here and I'm going
exactly,
to stick it to this piece of metal. Like, where are you going?
exactly.
What are you going to make? And I guess maybe at best you can come away with like some kind of abstract sculpture, and maybe that's almost the same with music. Maybe you'll get something weird abstract, but if you decide like I wanted to make a chair today, I'm going to make a chair.
Exactly.
So many other things are now just off the table. Like the page is no longer blank as soon as you just say that and make a chair. Or if with the song, I want to make a song that has a bridge like this song. Then there you go. You've wiped away so much of that blank page. So many decisions don't need to be made anymore. And you
Yeah,
can start solving
it's
that problem.
yeah, and that that same thing is basically why design is comparable to producing music, not to
Mm.
making music. Because when you're producing music, the problem is very clear. We need to make a song or a record, or no, because not everything in music is making a song. Sometimes it's making a
Hmm.
soundscape for, I don't know, for a museum,
Yeah.
or sometimes it's just performing, which is something that I think, to me, because of how I started in music and because of design, like I tend to see music like you need to have a final product, and sometimes music is not like that. Sometimes it's just awesome to go and jam with your friend,
Yeah.
and make noise for 2 hours and then go back home. It's
Hmm.
and for me it was hard to see it that way, because I've always been like, we make songs here, so we need to be productive. And sometimes it's just fun to go and play synths for 2 hours and just making a patch that goes nowhere, and because making music is also fun, just to play it and to perform it. And sometimes we get lost in this world where Instagram and Spotify is so important that you feel that you need to be productive. Like, even if you are just jamming, we need to make a video and upload it, and sometimes that doesn't matter. It's just like how we started this podcast was just like having fun, and it's same thing.
And we ruined it by recording it.
Basically.
Well, it's true. A lot of times I'll notice when I do podcasts, we'll kind of start talking, and that's kind of nice and natural. And then as soon as I say, hello, everybody, and welcome to the music production, then it gets all weird. And I keep saying, I think I've even said it on the podcast, that I'm really considering not doing that anymore and finding some other way. Maybe I'll do the intro afterwards and stick it in the beginning. But because sometimes it does change the feeling. Like, okay, now we're like performing this conversation, and it's going to be a product. And it is a lot different. There's a part of me, when growing up, like before I got into recording very early, but it was kind of more so that I could just have some chords to practice my pentatonic guitar solos over, So it wasn't really going anywhere. But that experience of just playing a guitar and letting it just resonate out into the air and go away, and it's over, and then put it away. And it was all about just the moment and the action of playing the guitar. And it didn't need to get recorded. And now so often everything I do, and there's a record button somewhere. There's, even if it's just my phone, just to remember stuff, there's always this sort of idea like, maybe this will be something. Maybe I can make it into something. And sometimes it does take a little bit of the, I guess, like momentariness of it, the just doing the thing for the sake of doing it. And is there a design equivalent to that, to like jamming, to just playing your drums for no reason other than just play them for an hour, or just design a synth patch for the sake of just fooling around and passing the time?
I think it might be like just sketching, like
sketching,
drawing.
doodling, and
But I've also seen how, like, I was like really respectful, like with Ableton as the DAW, like, if we're gonna hit record, it's because this is serious, and now I see it more just like a sketchboard. Like, let's just drop a bunch of ideas there, and it doesn't matter if this ends up being a song or not. It's because it feels like that, like when you compare like the arrangement view with the clip view, because that's something that it's like really particular with me. Like I like to start in the clip view. Like, I will record clips, MIDI clips, and then I'll arrange them into a song. So I don't go to the arrangement straight away. And there's people that only works in the arrangement view. And with the arrangement view, like, you have to be like really respectful with what you're doing. Like, the idea has to be like really clear, like what's gonna happen and why you're gonna record it. And the other one is like the messy part, where you can just have your ideas, and it feels more like a sketchbook. And I also think that's why I really like Ableton, and why I'm good at it. It's because of that messy part that it has, that it feels more like a sketch. Like Pro Tools, it's just like, doesn't work like that at all. Like, you straight away, you need to have a name for the project, tempo for the project, like, already
Yeah, that
know
happens when
like
you create a session, right? If I
yeah,
remember,
exactly.
I haven't used it in a long time, but that's where I
Like
started. And yeah, you have to put in the time signature and the tempo, and
it's like how, but I don't even know what I'm gonna do. It's already
yeah,
asking me all of this stuff. So
yeah, it's a different
yeah.
mindset, I guess. If you even thinking about writing, normally you just kind of use like a notebook to just write, free write, jot down ideas, and then you go to your document. After maybe you even outline first, maybe. I'm like you. I like to start in the clip view and play around, come up with ideas. It's my palette. I think of it like a palette for a painter, and then the canvas is arrangement view. But sometimes I will start in arrangement view just because I can hit record and forget I'm recording, and then play with all the toys and just put stuff down, and then find moments that I will turn into clips.
Hmm.
And now I'm in session view again, playing around. And then eventually I'll go back with the arrangement switch to arrangement view to get the kind of song together. But it can be fun. It's nice to sometimes just let it record for maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. So I don't even really remember I'm recording anymore. And then go back to 17 minutes and 30 seconds where that cool thing happened. And that will be like a beat that I'll use. Sort of like
Yeah,
sampling yourself, sampling your sketch into a clip.
yeah, and I even think like the guys at Ableton from the design process, like, yeah, we're gonna make new features in Ableton. Like, what are we gonna do? And what they are trying to do is to capture exactly that you were saying, like how can we make this live part of performing translate into MIDI? Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you just let a synth record and you will have filter automatizations, or you will just maybe you played something wrong but it sounds awesome, and just these little accidents that happen when you just let it record. And when you have MIDI, that basically doesn't happen, and it feels like really computerish. And
Mm,
so they are designing things that will help you make the MIDI not sound computerish, but ultimately that's what they want to translate into music, like how we make it feel alive by
right.
just letting it flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're very careful in what they put in and what they leave out. Like right now, Live 12 is in beta, and I don't know if you played with that at all. The
I I haven't because
You're too busy making music.
well, that, and because of the software,
Yeah.
because my computer is running on Catalina and I need to be
Mm,
at least in Monterrey. Well, the computer that I have, like for the studio, because I have my
yeah.
laptop which I use for performing,
Right. Yeah. So
and
you want to
that one
stick with
is,
what works.
or buy a new computer.
Yeah. Right. Well, no, there's a
It's
lot to be said about that.
but
I
I
have that part of me that wants to be up to date, the latest, this and that, and everything. But so often when you do that, then you realize, oh, my interface isn't working. No, this thing isn't, and I'm not making music. I'm troubleshooting. I'm looking at forums. I'm downloading drivers, and that can be pretty detrimental to the creative process.
yeah, yeah, and for me right now it's like I'm working in some albums
Yeah,
that I haven't finished. So
right.
if I just change my computer, maybe I'll open the session in a month. I will be like, oh shit, these plugins are not
Yeah,
working anymore, and it will be
sure.
like, yeah, I have to give it a little bit more time. But I've been close to the people in Ableton for a couple of years, and I think I've been part of the beta testing group since Ableton 10 or 9,
Mm,
and I really like to be the first one using the new features and just seeing what
Yeah.
works and what doesn't work. And I even remember one part of my life. It was like I'm just working on beta, and it doesn't matter if it's buggy or whatever. It's just we're working here until
Hmm.
it's official. And right now, as you say, I haven't had the time. Not even with the push 3, because I got the push 3 like maybe a month now.
Hmm. I saw your
And
video. Yeah.
I'm also making a video, like a longer one. But I like a dream of mine has always been to be able to play without the computer, because the
Hmm.
computer is the part that always fails. And it failed
Right.
me, on stage in front of 10,000 people.
Oh no.
It's just like computers.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about being able to just do what I do without the computer, or
Hmm.
just how it changes, like in the studio, like being able to have Ableton, like instead of being in front of the computer, now you can be in the couch and someone can
Yeah.
have a guitar in the couch and you can just be jamming there. And that part of it is awesome. Just
Yeah, it is.
it's not that easy to, like, what's happening to me with the push 3 is that everything is in the wrong place. Like,
Right.
because
You,
I
you
I
gotta
have like
transfer.
like I already know how to search for stuff. And when you are just in the push, it's like Ableton decided like how you have to search for things. So there's like a learning curve to
Yeah.
getting used to it and be fast with what you search for.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
I really like it.
I'm learning it still, and it is pretty awesome. I spent when the weather was warmer, I was sitting outside with it and some headphones, and it was just like, this is cool. It was just, again, like the atmosphere thing we were talking about, the environment. It was really fun to just be outdoors, not holed up in the basement, and just,
Yeah. No, and
different
again, just
music comes out that way.
yeah, and hitting the inspiration point again, because
Hmm.
like I'm a huge like OP1
Oh, me too.
nerd.
I love
and
it. Yeah.
and what I love about it is how portable it is. And for
Hmm.
example, I also have the Digitact, and it's so hard to work on it, like, because it has to go to just needing a power supply. Like, you need to be next to it. Like, it has to be already set up and working
Hmm.
for you to be able to use it. And that's like it became to me like such a big barrier between me and the instrument, because once you set it up, you don't even want to use it anymore, you know. And the op1 is like so fast, like it's instant satisfaction. You just
Yeah.
turn it on and you're ready to go and can make something. It's also not that easy to work, because in the op1 you have to record it in the tape, which is
Hmm.
hard because there's no like sync, or or quantize. You need to do it the old school way, so it's not that easy to actually make a whole song on it.
Yeah, it presents
But
different challenges.
just not, just it having a battery and not needing to be hooked to something helps a lot. And that's with the push tree. I think I see that as one of the most interesting parts of it. Like, yeah, you
Yeah.
can be in the beach making a song.
Yeah.
You should not be doing that, but you can.
You go. Well, I have some really nice musical memories with my OP1. I've sat by streams in the woods, recording even the stream as it goes by and layering that in. I've sat like by a lake. I was on vacation, New York, Lake George, recording, and I did an EP of like punk rock songs where I just had a 57 SM57 plugged into the mic input, and headphones. I was walking around, put the mic up to the drums and just played a beat, played the bass. It was so fun to just, I'm going here and I'm going here, and just no connection to anything, just my headphones in and the mic in. And those are inspiring moments when you can just work like that so fast and be so untethered to the technological stuff. And it sounds, I think sometimes I hear myself thinking like, I don't know, I don't feel like setting that up right now. I don't feel like setting this piece of gear. It's like one plug I have to do. Like all you have to do is plug the thing into the wall, right? And
Yeah,
it
exactly.
does feel like a lot sometimes. It's it's such like a 21st century complaint. It's like the digitag. It's like such an amazing piece of gear, but
Exactly.
I gotta plug it in.
Exactly. It's so crazy. Yeah.
It's funny. Sometimes my acoustic guitar feels like magic because I don't plug it in, I don't turn it on, it doesn't need a battery. It's like, wow, this is what we're striving towards. We're striving towards like an instrument that we've had for hundreds of years.
Yeah. No, it happened to me with another piece of gear, the Hapax from Squarp Instruments. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I don't
It's
think
just
so, no.
it's just a sequencer. It's basically the Ableton Push, but for analog gear.
Oh, cool.
And I bought it because I had this same idea that I don't want to use the computer on stage. So this seems like the perfect solution because I can have all my scenes and all my MIDI clips just sending to analog instruments, and it's awesome. And it's so difficult to use because you do need to have the analog synths hooked up working all of the time. So it's like I just make this problem huge now because in order for me to be able to have just a couple of sounds, I need to have a drum machine and the Prophet and another synth making bass, and like 1,000 cables and a mixer, and
Right.
Yeah. But
That's so funny. That
yeah.
reminds me of what we were talking about before we hit record, where I have a friend that does a lot of Zooms through his video game expo that he runs, and he always jokes with me like, you music people are always so complicated. You always have a problem because your mic isn't working, your camera is off, and meanwhile, I Zoom with somebody that just uses their phone, no my headphones or anything, and it's only like 5% lower quality than what you're giving me.
Exactly.
And all the trouble you go through.
Yeah,
It's so true. We overcomplicate it sometimes and it makes everything fall apart.
Yeah, no, for this podcast, I was gonna have like a U87 hooked up to the NIF preamp and just a really nice camera. We're going through a 35 lens with a Dream Effects filter, and it didn't work on my computer, and I ended up just doing it on my laptop. But yeah,
that's
that's
great.
exactly but it's weird because for me it's like, come on, I'm at a studio. I should be able to just hook a microphone, and I wasn't able.
Well, you probably wouldn't have been able to give us that nice 360 tour if you had all that gear up. Like, I can't really move my camera to show you anything else right now. It'd be a big production. I'd never be able to get it back to where I have it.
You need more cameras and
oh god,
and a video switcher, and
I know I had a video switcher actually recently, and I sent it back because I was like, no, this is getting out of control. It was like, this isn't gonna work. It's not. It's just it was slowing me down so much because I was trying to learn how to use it. And I was just like, what am I doing? I caught myself before I like fell over the edge of that complexity.
Which one did you have, the Atemi or?
Yeah, it was Atemi Mini something or other. It was cool. I mean, if I was a TV studio, it'd be great. I could sit there and like change but I can't do that and then play music and perform and talk to the camera, and it would be like so distracting to what I'd be talking about. Like, all right, hold on a second, and pressing. Okay, now I'm over here. It was
Yeah.
just silly. The extra professional equipment I felt made it look so much more amateur.
Well, yeah. A couple of months ago, I was in the same place because I'm that guy that is looking at gear in Amazon and just,
Mhm.
that has this gigantic wish list of things that wants to buy. And I'm that guy looking at tutorials of things that I'm never going to have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that
Yeah. Let's
feeling.
see this tutorial about this pack of size lenses for a camera that I don't have. Like
Yeah, I'm
why?
thinking about it. Well, I've managed to save myself a lot of money by doing this sort of like 2 week um, holding period. So, because sometimes I get on a whim and like in a weekend, I'll be like, oh, I need to buy this whole new rig of things. And, you find the one thing that seems pretty cool that requires 7 other things you got to have to make it work properly. So always tell myself, let's give it 2 weeks. Let's see how I feel about this. And almost every time, by 2 weeks, I've already forgotten. Like I've moved on. The obsession changed. A lot of times, really, what it is I'm just trying to avoid doing the work, doing the creative work. I'm thinking I can make it easier if I set this up and get that thing, but it would just be easier to just start doing the work. But that's the scary part, right? Like, I don't know if the work is going to come out any good. I don't know if what I make is going to be decent or not. But I know if I order this thing on Amazon, it will get here by Tuesday or whatever. And and that's like a success.
Yeah.
Guaranteed it's gonna work.
It happens to me a lot with plugins. Like you see a
Yeah.
plugin and you really want it. Like
Yeah.
and yeah, a lot of the times you buy it and then you use it one time and then you never use it again. But with Jira, I found it different. At least with synths, which is the thing I have the most. Like I do see synths inspiring to
Hmm.
the work. Like it's not that I'm making excuses to just buy things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does help to have a different palette of sounds or just synths that work
Yeah.
differently, or it will improve your workflow somehow. Doesn't happen with a lot of other stuff. Like with microphones, it's weird because it's like you have to spend a lot of money in a microphone that maybe it's gonna be awesome if you record horns, but maybe you record horns once a year. Like you don't need
Yeah.
that ribbon mic. But yeah, it's you need to be really objective on how to spend money. And in Mexico, it's hard with gear because it's not like in the US. Like I can't buy a microphone and then return it if I didn't like
Mm.
it. Like here, it's gonna be hard to get, more expensive. I'm gonna have to pay taxes. I'm not gonna be able to return it. Sometimes you won't be able to have like even a warranty just because you're in Mexico.
Really? Wow.
So
Hmm.
so yeah, gear is hard here.
Maybe that's kind of a good thing.
Maybe.
It's hard to figure out that balance though, because yeah, sometimes, like you said, like a new palette of sounds can really change everything. Um, but yeah, most of the plugins I have are like covered in digital dust, and they're in folders that I hardly even know I have them.
Yeah.
At least the synth, like I see it, I can touch it, it's here. But the plugin is somewhere buried in the virtual space, doesn't take up any real room. Um, it can be easy to forget you have stuff. And also, it's a learning thing too, right? Like you have to figure out how to use it now. And a lot of times when I'm in the heat of the moment and I'm excited, it's like, yeah, I know I have that new thing, but I just want to get this track recorded and done. And so a lot of times I don't reach for them because of that too.
Yeah.
So again, they it's a tough thing. Then know what you need and what you think you need.
Exactly, because with plugins it happens this thing to me like, oh, this mastering plugin looks amazing, and it's like, but I don't do mastering. Like I will always send the master to someone else, like,
Hmm.
or
Right.
yeah, like if I only had that multiband EQ, I will be able to do mixes by myself, like, and it's like, but you don't do mixing. Like you have to be like really clear with what you do, which most of the
Hmm.
time will be just dropping a compressor and and if you have sound
Yeah.
toys, you're good to go.
Yeah.
if you have decapitator, you don't need anything else.
Honestly, if you just have Ableton Live,
Yeah,
you got
basically.
Suite,
Yeah.
especially like that was a big point for me because when I first started doing stuff on the computer, I got obsessed with downloading everything I could find. And I learned all the ways to crack software. I was like becoming like a professional pirate of software. And I'd spent like months doing it and making no music. And then I had all this stuff I didn't know how to use. And I made the decision like, look, I've got this cracked version of Ableton Live. Why don't I learn that first? And then I'll figure out what I need. And also was starting to feel guilty about all of these things I had on my computer. Um, so I got rid of it all and just focused on the stuff in live. And I've learned so much. I learned how to use all that. And still to this day, like if I'm grabbing an EQ, I'm grabbing EQ8. I'm grabbing compressor out of live. There's a couple, I guess, that are fun for like coloring stuff, but most of the time I'm grabbing that stuff. I'm grabbing that delay, and I just know it now. I know what I'm going to get. I know how to get to where I want to go. The other stuff that I have is a little more like for fun and
Yeah,
flair,
yeah.
but when it comes down to like getting work done, like I know what to do with this one. Here we go. Let's
Yeah.
just move
No,
on.
and there's like the drum boss, for example, is like irreplaceable. Like if you're
Yeah.
mixing a song in Pro Tools, good luck. There's no drum boss. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like most of the plugins are designed to work in all of the platforms, so that's why
Hmm.
they work as they work. But some of the things that Live has are like really unique. Like the
Yeah.
other one that I love is Echo, because
Yeah.
I'm just crazy about Space Echo.
Hmm.
Like I would love if we could put a Space Echo into other people's conversations just for fun, you know?
Yeah.
And and
Yeah, I
that
really
one's
wanted
kind
to
of
get one of those actually, like a hardware one for a little while there until Echo came out. And that kind of quenched that thirst, thankfully, because anyone I know that has those is constantly getting them repaired. They they sound great. They really do. I mean, if anyone wants to give me one, I'll take it. But but Echo like kind of really like helped me get over that because you can do some wild fun stuff with it.
yeah, that one is my favorite for sure. And I'm
Yeah.
the same. Like I've been trying to get a Space Echo, like a real one, since ever. I've even had some opportunities to get the very expensive ones,
Yeah.
but I've resisted the urge. I But yeah, I have the pedal that
Mm,
is like digital, but it works just perfectly. And
mm,
Echo sounds just the same, and does much more, like how you can move the EQ or the damping for the vocals, and you can
yeah.
just make the automatization. And if you didn't
Y-
like it, you can change it, because with the real thing, it's like you need to commit to whatever you
Yeah.
recorded.
And they're always noisy.
Yeah.
And at least Echo lets you put the noise in, and if you don't want the noise, it doesn't have to be there. It is a really sick device. There's a lot in there. Any DAW is really like that. They're loaded with really powerful tools. If you have any DAW out there, you have more than anyone has ever had in the history of recording music. It's
Basically.
you're far and away past what anybody had for a long time, and we're just lying to ourselves if we think we need anything. Like, it's a really good way to avoid the hard work of actually creating and actually making music, and I fall for it all the time. So I intellectually understand this, but it's easy to say.
My biggest crush at this point is that I want to have a console.
Mm.
And at the beginning of the year, I was like this close to buying one. And it's so crazy because I want to have a console so much, but it doesn't even fit into my workflow at all.
Yeah. It
But I do
change
feel the
everything,
need
right?
to have
Yeah. Right.
like how are we gonna connect it, and how like it doesn't fit into the workflow, but I do think that I need that NIP console in my house.
Right. Especially like building a studio, it's the centerpiece. It's you know, it really adds to the look.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I know the feeling. Yeah, I'm glad I don't have room for that. There's something nice about having limited space and just limitations forced upon you so that you can't get involved in certain things because you can just go in so many directions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your
You
space
can
is beautiful though. Like it
Thank you,
really
man.
is. It's clean, it's neat, it's minimal to a degree, but you got tons of stuff as well. I think that's a fresh looking space for the creative mind too. Sometimes when there's too much stuff around, it's overwhelming. And I think when, the way our mind works, like you look at something and you're really taking in a million things at once in any given glance, in any given direction. And to have a space that's kind of neat and clean, to have fewer things, fewer inputs come in, I think keeps you focused.
Yeah, it's the same as we were saying with the plugins. Like you need to have the bare minimum, at least,
Hmm.
working. Like with synths, I have a lot of synths, but 99% of the times I'm gonna use the Prophet 6 because it's the one that works.
Yeah.
So just make sure that one's connected.
Yeah. I love the Prophet
Yeah.
6. It's right next
Yeah.
to me. I was a very well worthwhile investment for that
Yeah.
one. And
I,
it's given
I
me a lot in return.
yeah. I have a Prophet 8 and I used to love it, but Prophet 6 is
Prophet 8 is the one
way,
that's got two voices you can kind of put together, right? Like two kind of
yeah,
presets.
like two
I think,
layers. Yeah.
yeah, I had that and I sold that when this one came out to help
Things
finance
that
that.
eight is really hard to use. Like
I found
it's
it was hard to
like
use. Yeah.
it's like so powerful, but it's like
Yeah.
hard to use because it has like 64 LFOs, and you can do like just matrix, like send this LFO to this thing or whatever, and you have like this matrix option of just how you build sound. And Prophet 6 is not like that. It's like have the oscillator, the filter, and this one LFO. So it's like really fast to use.
Mm.
So it's basically the same machine, but just how it's laid out to work with it, the Prophet 6, it's like outstanding. And like
Hmm.
presets in the Prophet 6, like doesn't matter in which preset you are, it's gonna sound awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
And it has that one button. I think it's called preset. Just the preset button that turns off the preset, and then the
yeah,
knobs are just what they are. And I love that. I just want
yeah.
to see what's happening. And you couldn't do that with the Prophet 8. It was always, wherever your knobs were, it didn't matter because your preset, you had to turn them to kind of figure out where things were.
Yeah.
And
And something really crazy happened to me, that I had like a gig outside the city, like in Acapulco, which is basically the beach. And then like a couple of months after it, I we were like these presets are out of tune.
hmm,
Like weird, like why is it out of tune? And then I discovered that you have to tune the Prophet 6 regularly. Like just you press two buttons and it starts tuning the oscillators, because the oscillators are adjusting to the temperature of where the
oh,
synth is. So it's so crazy to know like it's sort of alive. Like
yeah,
you have to be caring for it like just watering a plant. Like you need
right.
to be tuning it
See,
regularly.
I haven't had to do that. I don't take it anywhere. It just stays right here. So I guess it's kind of consistent. I do have another one here. It's a Concert Mate Moog Realistic
Mm.
MG1. Um, Cherry Audio makes a really good plug-in version of it. But this thing, it was like a Moog that they sold at Radio Shack stores. So it wasn't like pro audio. It was more like consumer synthesizer. It sounds so cool. It's a great thing, but mine is like, it's like 30 something years old, and it's it just does what it wants to do. Like,
Yeah.
and it's kind of broken in a nice way right now, where
Okay.
I can work with it, and it's got these weird quirks, and you move like the sliders for the filter, and sometimes it just cuts out and in and out, and you can almost make rhythms with it. But it's I just it is does what it does. I let it kind of be itself, you know. Whereas some other stuff like they're precise. Plugins are super precise. You can always count on them being exactly what they're supposed to be. But there is that kind of fun about the analog domain, that it's got like an attitude. It's got feelings. It's like a plant. You got to water it. It changes a little. It gets temperamental. With that one, I just have, you know, resigned myself to letting it be whatever it wants to be. And that's the day. And on that day, that's what I'm going to get out of it.
Think that's also kind of awesome.
It is. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a person. Like, oh, he's in a bad mood today, but we'll still keep trying to make something.
Exactly.
It's a little cranky.
Yeah.
So I've had you a long time. I want to, respect the rest of your time for today. But like I said, music is great, and I went through the playlist of songs you sent me that you've produced, and such cool stuff. Let me, before I wrap it up, I do have one question I meant to ask you. Is about like your rhythms and your percussion and your grooves, especially. I noticed that it's very natural feeling. There's even the programmed stuff, the stuff that I think it's programmed anyway, is it's got this, it doesn't feel quantized to the grid so hard. I was just kind of curious, like what your approach is to do that, because sometimes stuff gets a little robotic and stiff, but your stuff really has like a kind of laid back vibe, even I would say in general, that I really enjoyed that about it.
Yeah, I think there's two parts of it, because most of the time it's gonna be like some digital drums and some real drums,
Hmm.
like with what will be like the percussions. Like there's gonna be a 808 and a snare of some kind, and there's gonna be real percussions. So for the real percussions, I've been trying to record them always. Like sometimes I'll grab like a sample from a library or Splice or whatever, and then I'll re-record it so that I can have like feels, or
Hmm.
just having the sound that I want, or sometimes just for it not to be the sample, because I'm getting to that point where
Yeah.
I know that's a sample and I don't want it. So
Yeah. Right.
and for drums, what changed my approach to that was Ableton Push, basically, because I've had the Push. I even had the first one,
Mm.
and I think that one was like my first like big purchase, because I bought that like the first batch with the
Mm.
suite, the complete suite. Like I before that, I used to have also the cracked Ableton, and I like to put the samples into a drum rack and play them,
Mm.
and that's why it sounds like someone actually played them. Like
Right.
I don't like to spend many time arranging MIDI. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know that for some people that's fun. For me, the fun part is playing it, like finger
Mm-hmm.
drumming it, and like I already have some sort of groups and I know what I'm looking for, and it gives me like the most pleasant like experience, because sometimes I will say like, okay, let's do drums, and I'll open a drum rack, and then I'll start like, okay, let's pick some kicks, and I'll put like 4 kicks that I like, and then 4 snares, and then a couple of hi hats, and then maybe these sounds that I don't even know what, just
Mm.
something random, and then I'll start playing it and start figuring out like combinations, like, okay, this maybe from these 4 kicks, the one that I really like is this one, and I'll start building the groove through that, and having different snares that sometimes when you're making, let's say that you're making the drums differently, like you're doing them in the arrangement and you're just dropping this kick and putting 4 kicks and then putting this snare in the position, like everything sounds the same always, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like already
It is the same.
programmed
Yeah.
to be like that. If you need to play it, then there's where different rhythms and different stuff starts happening,
Mm.
and that's basically why it sounds like that. And since I'm sort of a percussionist, that's where I'm paying more attention. That's the part that I like the most, and so that's the part where my musically, like my anthropology music part comes into place, because I started as a DJ, so like the hip hop turntablist. So the first thing is like breaks, like where does this
Mm.
sample came from, and where does this break comes from, and who was playing it, and how can I have it, like, and then it became that part, like where I was working with people from around the world, like percussionists from Venezuela or from Puerto Rico or from Colombia, and just getting to learn these different rhythms from around the world, and how they make cumbia in Colombia and how that's different from cumbia in Mexico, and how they make African rhythms in Peru, and how that's different from the African Caribbean rhythms, and what are the instruments that they are playing, and why that sounds like it sounds. And it started with me just, looking at YouTube videos and sampling things from YouTube. And then it become the real deal. Like there's an album of Sotomayor that we recorded in Puerto Rico, and it was going to Puerto Rico and having the like really good percussionists coming into the studio and recording the drums that we wanted, and just discovering like this percussion world kind of blew my
Mm.
mind. And that's what I'm always looking for, just these rhythms. And then like it started with, let's look for Latin rhythms, and then it went, let's look for Afro rhythms, and it's been like a transition from cumbia to Afro-Peruvian to Afrobeat to Amapiano to, just, yeah, trying to get whatever will get people dancing in the world that we are living in, because it's so funny to me to see how trends are changing, like how maybe this in this period of time, like all the DJs are trying to make these songs that sound Brazilian, and now we are in a point in the world where all the DJs are trying to make these songs made sound like African, you know, like Nigerian, and then
Mm.
we don't know what's gonna happen. Like, or with reggaeton, for example, which will be suddenly reggaeton just took over the world, and everyone is trying to have the reggaeton sound. So yeah, I could be talking about drums and
Mm.
sampling drums forever, but that's yeah, it's like this approach has come for the love of this the sound of the percussions, and also how are these songs made, because at the beginning I think I was telling how I started making music by just figuring out what I could do with two turntables, and that led me into sampling and breaks and just trying to be like a good turntablist and scratching. And it's something that fascinates me about music are albums like the Discovery from Daft Punk, which is basically just like samples, like how instead of giving an artist instruments, you give him records, and suddenly they make one of the most
Mm.
awesome albums of in history. And it's just samples. And I remember when I listened to this like sample source record that they released that had all the original songs that Daft Punk sampled, like I felt like betrayed, you know. Like my first feeling was like betrayal, like listening to songs like Robot Rock, which is basically the same as the sample. It was like why it felt to me like they were cheating. And
Mm.
then I kind of understand it. Like, no, the thing is that they made these awesome things just by sampling stuff, and that's genius. Like
Mm.
they made these songs out of other songs without having any resources really, you know. And that's awesome that you can do that. You can just get this idea and make it better and make it something different and make it your own and bring it to your world. And it's just this so different approach to making music, because the world of music is like really hard on people sometimes. Like you feel like you have to be like the best bass player in the world in order for you to go and make a song, and that's not how it works. It really doesn't matter if you know how to play the instrument at all, you know,
Mm.
because there's so many ways to actually make a song. And yeah, it's I think we derail a little bit about the original question,
No,
but
no.
that's kind of why all these parts start, like these building blocks start to arrange, like sampling and drums and breaks and genres, and how we can just put everything in a blender and make a song.
Mm. Yeah, you can take all those approaches, and it's so cool, like you said, like because it can be really intimidating, right? Like sometimes I play my guitar and I feel like, oh, I don't know if I can hold my own here, you know, like I should be faster or smoother or whatever it is. But when it comes to actually making a song, recording, producing a song, it's less important, I guess. But I guess it's just one means of getting there. And it is really fun to
Yeah,
combine all
it's
these
yeah, yeah.
approaches.
It's also important to note that I'm not saying like, yeah, you don't need to know music theory at all, because that's not true. Like
Right.
learning how to play an instrument and knowing music theory is gonna help you so much to go faster and to comprehend the universe. But
Yeah.
you need to know that that's not the only thing. There are
Right.
so
And
many
it's
other things
almost
that
the way if you're like a master guitar player, it's still good to learn some production. It's good to learn some other aspects of making music too. That'll just open so many doors. And it's really fun. I see a lot of people that are um, really solid musicians in one area, and when they start learning live or something, and they learn their DAW, and then like their music is immediately like up here compared to someone else that's just learning, because they're bringing so much else to the table. So if your production is already up here and you start learning an instrument, that's going to also come much faster. You can understand how the instrument functions better than somebody that doesn't have that background.
Yeah, totally.
It's like you said in the beginning, you can never stop learning about all this stuff.
Yeah, totally.
The unsolvable, unfinishable puzzle of music. It's what keeps us all coming back, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I I see myself as a romantic when I talk about music. Like I don't know. I think it's because we love it so much that we are really passionate about everything. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to hear what kind of stuff you put together in the future, because I think having that kind of passion and love and curiosity about all different kinds of music is only going to make you continue to grow and create new things that you haven't even dreamed up yet and that we haven't heard yet. I think you're already doing awesome work. It's fun, it's exciting, it's energetic, and I'm just happy to have had a chance to talk to you about how you see things. It's inspiring, and anybody that has the kind of passion that you do about this, it's no wonder the music that's coming out of your studio is so cool, and that you're having such success working with other people. And I'm sure it's only going to draw more people into what you're doing. So
thank you
well
very much,
done.
man.
Keep it up. And
Thank you
thank you
very
for
much.
taking the time to be here. Let me ask you, there's a lot of places I guess people can find you. Do you like to send people anywhere in particular? Is there a hub you have of
I
when
think
people say, gotta check out your music?
I think my Instagram will be first stop,
Mhm.
which is just Tonga Conga, because I
Right.
have different projects, but the one that I see as my main is Tonga Conga,
Nice.
and from
Cool.
there, I think maybe listening to the first Tonga Conga album that's called Heavy, that's on every platform,
Mm-hmm.
and then just go everywhere else. I've
Nice.
been making, because I have this like lo-fi project called Flora Vida, and I have this band that I do with my sister called Sotomayor. There's just a lot of stuff going around, but Tonga Conga is kind of like the main character at this point.
Cool. Well, I'm going to put it all in the show notes. So anyone listening, you can just click on wherever you get this, and I'll make sure you get right there. They can check out what you're doing. Thanks again so much, Raul. It's really awesome talking to you. I'm
Thank
glad
you, man.
that
Same,
Lyndon
same.
hooked us up.
Linden, Linden is also awesome. Because
Yeah.
we've been working. I think he told you, but we've been working like in a short film for Ableton for almost a year and a half now,
Right.
and it's been awesome to share my vision with him. And I've met him a couple of times here in Mexico, and he's awesome. And yeah, thank you for
Yeah. I look
getting
forward
us
to that.
together.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Lyndon. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, the listener, for tuning in. Definitely check out Tonga Conga, Raul Sotomayor's work, and we will get you hooked up with that. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Music Production Podcast. If you want to help support the show, the best thing you can do is tell a friend, someone you think that would enjoy the show. I'd also love it if you could leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to support my work, you can go to brianfunk.com. I've got tons of Ableton Live packs, tutorials, samples. You can check out my book, The 5-Minute Music Producer, which gives you 365 short music-making activities to help you get started, stay inspired, and finish more music. And there's also the Music Production Club, where you get my latest releases as soon as they're finished. It gives you access to a community of like-minded people who are making music and sharing ideas. You can share your music, find new collaborators, and participate in our live meetings where we set up some kind of musical challenge and then make music together and share our results at the end. That's the Music Production Club. It's a lot of fun, and you can find that and everything that I do at brianfunk.com. Thanks again for listening to the show, and have a great day.